Every evening, just before the sun disappeared behind the hills, a small wooden house at the end of a quiet street lit a single lamp by its window. Most people passed by without noticing, but those who did often slowed their steps. Because there was something about that house, something that felt like it was waiting. The house belonged to a man named Oliver. He had lived there for many years, longer than most people in the village could remember. His hair had turned silver, his hands had grown steady and slow, and his voice carried the soft weight of someone who had learned to speak only when it mattered. But what made Oliver different was not his age. It was what he did every evening. At the same time, every day, he would sit by his window with a small wooden box beside him. Inside that box were letters, dozens of them, some old, some worn, some unopened. And every evening, he would take one out, hold it for a moment, and then place it gently on the table. But he never opened them. Not anymore. No one in the village understood why. Some said the letters were from his past. Others believed they were from someone he had lost. And a few whispered that Oliver was waiting for something that would never come. But the truth was quieter than all of that, and much heavier. Years ago, Oliver had not lived alone. There had been someone else in that house. Her name was Clara. She had a soft voice, a warm laugh, and a way of writing letters even when she had nothing important to say. She believed that words mattered, that even small words could hold something meaningful. So she wrote often. Short letters, long letters, letters about ordinary days, letters about feelings she didn't always say out loud. And she left them for Oliver, on the table, by the window, sometimes even tucked into his coat pocket. At first, he didn't understand it. "Why write to me when I'm right here?" he would ask. Clara would smile. "Because someday you might need these words more than you need me sitting beside you." Oliver would laugh. He thought it was a strange habit. But he kept every letter, without knowing why. Time passed, as it always does, quietly, without asking permission, until one winter. Clara became ill. At first, it seemed like something small, just a cold, then something heavier, then something that did not go away. The house grew quieter, the letters became shorter, and eventually, they stopped. Oliver never forgot the last letter she left. He didn't read it right away. He couldn't. Because somewhere deep inside, he felt that as long as it stayed unopened, something was still unfinished. Something was still waiting. After she was gone, the house changed. Not suddenly, but slowly. Like a light fading at the end of a long day. The laughter disappeared. The warmth faded. And the silence became something heavier than before. For a long time, Oliver could not bring himself to touch the letters. They remained in the wooden box, just as Clara had left them, waiting. Then one evening, without planning to, he opened one. It was a small letter, just a few lines. It said, "Today was nothing special, but I saw the light through the window and it made me think of you. I hope you remember, even on ordinary days. You are not alone." Oliver sat there for a long time, reading those words again and again. And for the first time since Clara was gone, the silence in the house didn't feel empty. It felt full. After that, he opened another letter, and then another, each one carrying a piece of her voice, a memory, a feeling, a moment that had once seemed small but now felt important. But then, one evening, he stopped. He looked at the last few unopened letters in the box, and he couldn't do it. Because once they were opened, there would be nothing left. No more words waiting, No more moments untouched. So he made a quiet decision. He would keep some letters unopened. Forever. Not because he didn't want to read them, but because he wanted something to remain. Still waiting. From that day on, his evenings became a ritual. He would sit by the window, light the lamp, take one letter from the box, hold it gently, and then place it back, unopened, as if time itself had paused inside that small piece of paper. The villagers noticed, of course. They always do. But no one asked. Because some silences are not meant to be broken. Then, one spring evening, something changed. A young boy named Leo knocked on Oliver's door. He looked nervous, holding something in his hands. "I think this is yours," he said. Oliver opened the door slowly. "What is it?" Leo held out a folded piece of paper. "I found it near the old road." Oliver took it. The paper was worn, but familiar. Very familiar. It was one of Clara's letters, one that must have been lost long ago. Oliver stared at it, his hands trembling slightly. "Where did you find this?" "By the trees," Leo said. It looked important. Oliver nodded. "It is." Leo hesitated. "Why don't you open it?" Oliver looked at the letter again, then at the boy. "Because I'm not sure I'm ready." Leo frowned slightly. "But it's just a letter." Oliver smiled softly. "No," he said. "It's more than that." There was a long pause. Then Leo said something simple. "Maybe it's waiting for you." Those words stayed with Oliver long after the boy had left. That night, he sat by the window as always, the lamp glowing softly, the wooden box beside him, and the letter in his hands. For a long time, he did nothing, just sat there, listening to the quiet, feeling the weight of the moment. Then slowly, very slowly, he opened it. Inside, the handwriting was familiar, gentle, steady, alive. It said, "If you are reading this one day, it means I'm no longer there to say things in person. And I know you, Oliver. You probably waited before opening this. Maybe longer than you should have. But that's all right. Some things need time. I just want you to remember something. Not all things that end are meant to be held onto in silence. Some are meant to be opened, to be felt, to be lived through, even if it hurts, because the love inside them doesn't disappear. It changes. And if you let it, it can still warm your life, just in a different way. So don't stop living in the light, even if I'm no longer there to share it with you." Oliver's hands trembled, but this time, he didn't stop reading. And when he finished, he closed his eyes, not in pain, but in understanding. For the first time in years, he looked at the box of letters differently, not as something he had to protect, but as something that had already given him everything it needed to. That night, something shifted. The next evening, the lamp was still lit, the window still warm, but Oliver did something he had never done before. He opened another letter, and another, and another. Not all at once, not in a rush, but slowly, gently, allowing each one to be part of the present, not just the past. Days turned into weeks, and the house began to change again. The silence softened. The air felt lighter, and sometimes, very quietly, Oliver would smile, because he realized something he hadn't before. The house had never really been waiting for letters. It had been waiting for him, to be ready, to open them, to feel them, to live again. And from that day on, the light in the window was no longer just a memory. It was something new, something alive, something shared. And if you ever walked past that house in the evening, you might still see the warm glow through the glass. But if you looked closely, you would notice something different. The light didn't feel like it was waiting anymore. It felt like it was welcoming, as if it were saying, quietly, "Some things are meant to be opened, even if it takes time, especially if it takes time."